The new Netflix Spanish crime thriller, 1992, or 1992, is hitting the platform. It's a fiery watch, but is it worth it? After the death of her husband in a strange explosion, Amparo begins to search for the answers with only the help of Richi, a security guard, ex-cop, and alcoholic. Meanwhile, the murders always follow the same pattern. Next to the burned bodies of the victims appears the doll of Curro, the iconic mascot of the Expo '92 from Seville. This is a 6-episode miniseries that follows Richi, this ex-cop who teams up with the wife of his deceased friend to solve the mystery of why he was killed and in the process find out who's responsible for the heinous and violent murders of several others. Now there's a lot of mystery within the story, because not only are there multiple victims that we watch fall prey to a killer, but the who, why, and who's next also creates some good intrigue. That being said though, the why of the story, it's fairly obvious and predictable. It's a pretty easy premise to discern, but that doesn't make the other elements simple to figure out, especially the who. And we're shown the villain very early on in the series. When we see them, they're dressed in an outfit that looks a bit like Aaron Taylor Johnson's getup in Kick-Ass, mostly green with some thick yellow stripes. But at other times, the perpetrator looks like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Cobra Commander, with a disfigured face that's gnarled and frightening. And this isn't something that comes as a shock. I mean, we're privy to glimpses of their hands and face from just about the first moment that we encounter the baddie. Now, at first, I was having difficulty getting entrenched in the story. The beginning of the series, it's wild and attention-grabbing, but as we're introduced to Richi, he's a difficult character to warm up to. And the repeated flashbacks never had the softening or sympathetic effect that I think they were designed to elicit. These flashbacks are also repeated a lot, so they lose their effectiveness and even shock value. And as part of Richi's haunted past, he sees visuals that are gnarly and gross. Now, the makeup and effects of what he sees, they are excellently conveyed and frighteningly believable. I just wish they weren't overused as much as they were. It was sort of haphazard in the timing with the visions too, never being able to predict when they'd appear or what the specific trigger was. And I love what they represent and how they affect Richi, but just like with the flashbacks, they lost a lot of their shock value as the series progressed. The other main character of the story is Amparo, the widowed wife of Richi's friend. Now, her drive and determination translate well through the story and are mainly plausible, save for a few scenarios that become a little absurd. But her dynamic with Richi, it's tense and strained while also having this slight romantic tension that comes about through shared extreme circumstances. Now, as the pair discovers that there may be a larger sinister plan in the works, they try to involve the police. And while some of these situations create engaging or frustrating interactions, one relationship between Richi and a former colleague, it's completely unnecessary and then very tiresome. They have a contentious association, but it doesn't work to progress the story in the slightest. It does highlight the dysfunction and the bad blood that exists between Richi and his former co-workers, but that's not a huge component that assists the storytelling. And additionally, there are too many back-and-forth scenarios involving Richi and other cops. And he's been in the game and knows how they think and function, so when he comes with ideas or suspicions, but with no solid proof, he gets bent out of shape when they're not jumping in to help. Now, the core plot is a little timely for some of the events that took place in the US involving a health insurance CEO. I mean, no, 1992 doesn't have to do with the unaliving of an executive, but it does take a look at a group of privileged and haughty individuals who believed they were better and deserving than they actually were, and the consequences then that come about as a result of decisions. Now, the way that supposed justice is carried out in this series, it's a bit on the spicy side. Let's just say that several victims, once taken care of, are close to medium well in terms of doneness. And that leads me to the violence in the action. This is way more brutal than I anticipated. I mean, it's not a negative, it just got me a bit off guard. There are some devastating scenes that showcase extreme brutality and callousness. While one or two other scenarios, they take advantage of character armor and then allow implausible survival actions to take place. Now, these didn't ruin the story, but they did make my eye twitch a bit because of how unbelievable the outcomes were. For as exciting as the pursuit aspect of the series is, this is drawn out more than necessary, leading to a meandering watching experience that feels longer than it really is. There are exciting and urgent sequences in each episode, but they're also surrounded by scenes that stifle the momentum, either repeating actions in similar ways or focusing on character movements that don't benefit the plot. The final two episodes, though, they are filled with thrilling drama, providing all of the missing information as well as a heart-pounding finale. And even though I think that you are going to be able to guess the motive well before it's revealed, the perpetrator's identity remains a mystery simply thanks to a lack of information. And I like too that the story hides along some surprises as it goes. But it's a little unfortunate that we're then spoon-fed the solutions after a reveal. I mean, it's as if the filmmakers didn't have faith that the audience could connect the dots once all of the information was delivered. And I guess one benefit is that there isn't ambiguity when it comes to the conclusion, but it also removes any brain work on our part, which may or may not work for you depending on how you like to have your solutions delivered. So overall, 1992 contains violent thrills and a complicated mystery thanks to the omission of information. There are more repetitive moments than needed, and some overused visuals reduce their effectiveness. But the story also delivers tense sequences and a plausible arc, even when there are absurdities in play. This is a fun and brutal crime drama that may overstay its welcome, but maintains some fiery energy that leads to an explosive finale. There's sex, nudity, a lot of profanity, and a bunch of very brutal violence. I give 1992 3 out of 5 couches. This is decent for a one-time watch, so you may want to give it a go. Are there any other non-English thrillers that you've seen lately that are good? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.